So you know how some games will do like weekly dev updates to give you an idea of what's going on. Like, oh, this is what's coming this week. In 3 weeks, we're going to launch season 2 or whatever. And then that's going to bring this content. They give you little sneak peeks, maybe a screenshot or two. Maybe they show you a skin that's coming to the shop or something like that. There's usually stuff like that going on. Rocksteady just announced that they're no longer going to be doing weekly developer updates, which is bad. That's bad. They say instead they'll release them when they have big news to share about future content. But that's all there is to it. Yeah, the developer hopes that this will make the release of each new update an exciting event while keeping you all up to date on all the happenings with the game. While some believe this makes sense, why offer a developer update with no updates or significant news, for example? Others think this is the first step towards declining support. Concurrent player numbers on Steam peaked at 519 in the last 24 hours per SteamDB. The last time it crossed 1,000 was during the season of the Joker's launch. It plummeted right back down afterwards as fans complained about the lack of content, recycled missions, or strongholds, a hefty grind to unlock the Joker, also available for real money, and so on. Ugh. Warner Brothers Discovery said that it had fallen short of expectations, and later the parent company confirmed it contributed to a $200 million impact on revenue. Oh! While its 5th season could be the last based on rumors, there's no doubt whether the looter shooter can even reach that point. As always, stay tuned for further updates. I'm telling you now, the next playable character could straight up just be the nail in the coffin. Like straight up, I'm telling you right here and now, if you thought the Joker was mocked, oh my God, just you wait. Just you wait. Yeah, you looked it up, Timeless Soul, you know what I'm talking about. It's one of those things you see the character and you're like, who thought that that was a good idea? Anybody who thought that that was going to be received well, honestly, I would question all of their judgment, all of it, every drop, because you ask literally anybody in the broader gaming community, hey, are players going to like this character? And you would be told universally, no. No, they won't. They're going to mock you into oblivion. Like the Joker was just kind of cringy, but it was whatever. This one seems to be reaffirming the idea that they designed characters around like activist messaging and stuff, and that is a great way to nuke your game's chances of being successful. Like I thought that the underage Poison Ivy thing that Kieran's mentioning, I thought people getting upset about that was kind of weird. They were upset that like Ivy was reformed and now was no longer hot and was a child. And I was like, okay, like it's a little weird, but like, let's chill out. You know, I didn't think it was fair to maybe get totally freaked out over that. I thought that was silly, but the Joker came out and we're like, okay, I know you wanted to do something different. And they talked in the dev interviews about him like having insecurity and trying to find himself in this new world, none of which was relevant when the Joker actually came out. There was like a 2-minute cutscene where there was barely any dialogue and that was it. Like no other explanation or exploration of the character, nothing. And now we're getting a look at the next character and it's like, okay, so like this, if you guys were trying, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. Like it's shockingly bad. Yeah, Joker's insecure. Yeah, go listen to those dev interviews they did when they were trying to hype up season 1. I pray to the gods of gaming that we get interviews like that for season 2, because dear God Almighty, it's gonna be hilarious. Like it's gonna be crazy, and I am excited. I am so ready for it. I'll tell you what, right here, right now, it's going to be outrageous. Trying to see them defend that and the squirming that's going to take place. Because like Joker, you can sort of be like, oh, it's a unique spin. This, it's just like, yeah, we know you wanted this, but we have this thing that is objectively worse, and we're going to give that to you. And if you don't like it, we're going to call you a bigot. It's like, okay, got it. Let's see how that goes for you. Oh man, where's the leak? Just Google Suicide Squad season 2 leaked character and you will find it. What's next? Batman afraid to punch bags. Yeah, we wanted to make our own Batman, so we made a Batman that has a compulsive fear of bats to the point where he pees himself. And we actually developed a system where the Dark Knight will actually pee and urinate on himself, and the Dark Knight will actually grow darker as the urine spreads over his body, because we wanted to ground it in that fear of bats. Yeah, he also is a furry. It's just, wait, what? This is getting weird. This is getting bad. I don't think this is a good idea, but okay. But like that's seriously how this goes. Like, and then they act shocked when the reception's poor. And it's like, I have zero sympathy for you if you thought that this was going to be well received. Like, at least if they were braced, like Redfall, I can kind of appreciate that the devs knew it wasn't working and they wanted Microsoft to cancel it. That's the reporting by Jason Schreier. They wanted to basically have Microsoft come in and cancel it. But with this, it's like they really thought, by every metric I've heard, the people that were in charge of these character designs and stuff really thought they were badass and people would like eat it up, which is horrifying. Like, that's horrifying that anybody thought that. You have to be pretty disconnected from the industry to believe that. And those are the people making these games. But it's also why, like, people have asked me, what should we do about all of this? What should we do about activist involvement in the games industry? What should we do about all these things? Honestly, I don't think we really need to do much, because these things have a way of kind of filtering themselves out. My problem with activism in games is that they tend to make games worse. But the nice and convenient thing about bad games is that they don't tend to make money. And when things don't make money, big companies don't want to do them. So if they start looking at all this stuff and like, wow, everything we tried with Suicide Squad failed and lost us hundreds of millions of dollars, literally hundreds of millions of dollars. So maybe we should just do the opposite of whatever that was. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Usually it takes a while. People kind of mix it up. They're like, oh, well, this game was horrible and released in 2020. And then in 2021, that same studio released another game that didn't learn from those previous lessons. It's like, yeah, but that was in development for 5-6 years. Wait another 5-6 years and see what those games look like and how they've changed, because usually they will adapt and shift. But like with all this stuff, anybody who worked on Suicide Squad, their resume is pretty screwed now. Like it's kind of a taint on the resume, unless you worked on like the animation team, unless you worked on cinematics and stuff. Saying you worked on Suicide Squad is probably not a great selling point to a new job, you know? Probably not something you want to bring up. BlackRock still exists. A lot of these companies can't stop or can't be stopped sucking on the teat. Yes, but ultimately BlackRock, like any other hedge fund or money manager, they still are investing in companies based on certain revenue or profitability targets. Somebody like Warner Brothers Discovery, I mean, I can just show you the graph. It doesn't matter how much they're appealing to certain metrics or certain political things that some activist investors might care about. Investing in it is a bad idea. They've just been hemorrhaging money as time goes by. And so it doesn't matter. You know, that like this to me reveals that the leadership at Warner Brothers Discovery is the problem. It's not necessarily like a lot of outside forces, because it's just, I mean, there are outside forces. You know, it's complicated. There's a lot of reasons why Warner Brothers Discovery is dying. But that's a whole other issue. That's a whole other thing. But with all this, my feeling is generally that these things tend to sort of filter themselves out. Games that are built on shaky premises and that are just meant to check off certain boxes or are meant to satisfy shareholders but don't care about the gamers' impressions of them. Again, they have a way of kind of filtering themselves out and revealing it, because it's transparent. You can see it from a mile away when something's been built, not because it's the best game, but because it's appealing to investors or it's appealing to some sort of activist group. Like, you can spot it a mile away, and players hate that stink. They cannot stand it. And so those games flop and die. Because the one thing that's worse in the games industry than being a bad game is being an uncool game. And the worst thing you could possibly have for your live service game is if it is uncool, and if you're going to get teased for playing it. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, You see somebody come into chat and they're like, oh, I actually play a lot of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And they get bullied. I mean, people are like, what's wrong with you? What kind of car accident were you in that made you enjoy that game? You know, people start, teasing you about it. And that's because gaming is ultimately a social thing. And so I think if you have a game that's bad and uncool, it stands zero chance at all. That's why, like, even if this game is Concord, even if it is a good game, even if it is mechanically sound and runs great and is really well balanced, even if all that stuff is true, it won't change the fact that it is uncool. And so there's going to be a lot of people that just don't bother playing it because they just don't want to do that. They'll stick to the game they currently play. And that's that. Because again, every time there's a barrier to entry to getting into a game, that's one more reason for people not to play it. And when you're in such a crazy competitive industry, you cannot stand to have any reason for somebody not to play your game. With all this, it looks like the end is beginning, or this is the beginning of the end. They are not going to be updating with smaller updates now. It's just reaffirming the idea that they're maybe starting to shift towards more of a skeleton crew, and they're not going to pour as many resources into maintaining community updates and social media posts and stuff. And instead, they're going to be focusing on just getting other stuff out the door and figuring out what the hell comes next, because this doesn't work. It's like, what are we doing? Luke will find a new cringe game. I have a feeling it might be Concord. The difference is Concord's coming from like a new team, so nobody's really expecting much. With Rocksteady, part of what made that game so heartbreaking is that we knew what the studio at one time was capable of. Like at one time, people really, really, like they were doing great, but we cared. That was our first mistake. He took my thing.